Welcome to Life Lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we continue with the 10th Canto. We're discussing chapter 62. It's a story of battle and it's a story of divine intervention as well. Before I start, I'll chant some prayers of invocation, glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the meantime, invite friends to leave comments, reflections as well. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 4. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udaye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayan Rishi, the topmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 17. Shridvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Yam Bhadrani Vidudoti Suhrit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, was the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text 18. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Maybe one more. First Canto, Chapter 3, Text 40. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Ishreyasya Yashaya Lokasya Dhanyam Svastyaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Well, let me acknowledge some of you who joined here. Arti is with us, joining from South Africa. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Welcome, Arti. Thanks for joining. Mata is with us from Dunedin, South Island, New Zealand. Hari Paul, Gaurav Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Thanks for being here with us, always. Mata. Gornitai Das, joining us from Ukraine. Thank you for being here, Gornitai. Reminding us to remember you and the devotees there, living and serving under very difficult circumstances. Shama Manjari with us from South Africa, Hari Krishna Prabhuji, and all assembled devotees. And we have Kirti joining us from Norway. Tandvats. Thank you all so very much for being here. Let us begin. We're discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 32. we're going to need to discuss this story in two parts over two classes. So our topic, Aniruddha and Ūṣā, Love, Battle, and Divine Intervention, Part 1. On the festival tour in Poland some years ago, we actually introduced this story of Ūṣā and Aniruddha as one of our plays. It's very popular. We've been doing Ramayana for many, many years. And then we had our Krishna Lila puppet shows. And we introduced the Ūṣā and Aniruddha story as a story that is, that would be of interest, particularly for adults. It's a story of love. It's a story of drama, and there's intrigue and quarrel. There's romance. It's a very wonderful tale. It comes in the context of our discussions of Krishna's marriages to Rukmini and Satyabhama and Jambavati and another 16,106, 105 princesses, total 16,108 princesses. And then we heard about Pradyumna and his story. And in the last class we had, we discussed Aniruddha and his marriage to the daughter of Rukmi. I think it was the granddaughter of Rukmi. And so now we get this story, and it's a story of another marriage of Aniruddha. So Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha, one of his marriages in the previous chapter, and now his second marriage is being discussed in this chapter 62, and the story continues into 63 as well. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We will discuss today chapter 62. The story continues into chapter 63 as well, but that'll be our next class. 62 we'll discuss under three headings. 1, Shiva's affection for Bāṇāsura. 2, that's verses 1 through to 9. Then Ūṣā's love for Aniruddha, verses 10 to 22. And then Aniruddha arrested, verses 23 to 33. So we're going to end on that cliffhanger of Aniruddha being arrested. So we begin with our first topic, Shiva's affection for Bāṇāsura, verses 1 through to 9. Bāṇāsura was the eldest of 100 sons of the great king of the demons, grandson of Prahlada Maharaj, that is Bali. So this Bāṇāsura then, he is the great-grandson of Prahlada Maharaj. That's an interesting perspective to keep in mind through this pastime. He was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. So grandfather, father, they are great devotees of Vishnu. Bāṇāsura, he is a devotee of Lord Shiva. And Shiva had much love for Bāṇāsura, and he granted him a boon of great strength. He granted him 1,000 very powerful arms. And Bāṇāsura, he has great devotion for Shiva, so he used those arms in service. That's also a nice example for us, how to use the arms. Bāṇāsura used his 1,000 arms to play drums. And Shiva is a famous dancer. His name is Nataraj. And so to dance nicely, you have to have a good beat. And none could provide a better beat for Lord Shiva than his devotee Bāṇāsura. With his 1,000 arms, he plays 500 drums. And Shiva is very, very grateful. He dances his Tandava Nritya, his dance of destruction. And so Lord Shiva is very, very pleased with Bāṇāsura and his service. And he says to him, please choose from me any benediction you wish for. This is most magnanimous, most kind of Lord Shiva. But then we should be careful when we make that kind of offer. Choose anything you wish for, because if you make that offer to a demon, they might wish for something that causes trouble. In Bāṇāsura's case, he made the request, Lord Shiva, you please be the guardian of my city. His city is Suditapura. It's in the Assam region. I looked it up once. It's in the northern India, the base of the Himalayas is where Manasura had his kingdom. And Shiva, he has much gratitude and obligation to Manasura. He agreed to become the guardian of that city, the protector of that city. One day, Manasura came to Lord Shiva with a problem. He said, "Oh Mahadev, oh greatest of the gods, you have blessed me with great strength. You have blessed me with these 1,000 arms. But there's a problem. I have so much power. I have so much strength, and there's no one that I can fight with. I feel like these arms are a great burden to me. There's no warrior strong enough to fight me. Any warrior that I come before flees in fear." And so Shiva, he chastised his devotee, Manasura. He said, "You rascal, your pride will be crushed in battle when you beat my equal." He said, the flag of your chariot will fall to the ground broken, and then your pride will be crushed. So we can pause here and we can reflect a little. What is this gratitude that Lord Shiva has for Banasura? It's something nice to pause and appreciate this service and gratitude. Shiva has gratitude for the service of Manasura, and he benedicts him with power, with strength. He benedicts him also by becoming the guardian of his city, teaching us the significance of being grateful and reciprocate with others. When services are rendered, we must express our appreciation. That is the right and noble thing to do. This is also a cautionary tale with so many of these stories in the Bhagavatam. A cautionary tale about pride. Manasura has extraordinary strength, extraordinary strength. He also has devotion to Lord Shiva, but it is undermined by his ego and his pride, and these make him blind to the reality of his limitations. And so these stories are told as a caution to us. No matter how strong or capable we are, there's always someone or something that can challenge us. Krishna ultimately is the source of all power. And we always have to keep that in mind. We always have to recognize Krishna is the source of our power. Prahlad Maharaj, he had that insight and perspective, that realization, as opposed to Hiranyakashipu, who thought he was the source of his own power. Prahlad, he was very clear in pointing out to Hiranyakashipu, no, Krishna, he is the source of all of our power. In Manasura's case, we are given an illustration of the consequences of checked ego and how it can blind us weakness and lead to our downfall. Let's go to the part then, Ūṣā's love for Aniruddha, verses 10 through to 22. Manasura, this great king, he has a daughter named Ūṣā. So keeping in mind Manasura's lineage, son of Bali, great-grandson of Prahlad. So this Ūṣā, she is the descendant of Prahlad Maharaj and Bali. And once she has an encounter with this handsome man in a dream, and this is a recurring dream. So each night she's meeting the same person, and she falls in love. And then one night the dream doesn't come, and she becomes quite disturbed, wakes up, and she speaks to him aloud in a state of agitation. And her associates, her maidservants, they notice that she's speaking. She's addressing a lover in her state, that state of sleep and wakefulness. And when she sees that they're all looking at her, she feels greatly embarrassed. One of her associates is Chitra Lekha. So these Bhagavatam names are always very interesting as well. Chitra means picture, and Lekha line. So she's an artist. She can make nice pictures. And so Chitra Lekha asks her, "Who is it that you've been addressing?" And Usha told her about the reoccurring dream of this handsome man that she has fallen in love with. And so, hearing of Usha's dream lover, Chitralekha tries to alleviate her distress by fulfilling her namesake in roaring trick pictures. She demigods, Indra, Vayu, Chandra, Varuna. Usha's like, no, not him, not him, not him, none of them. She draws pictures of Gandharvas. Gandharvas are very handsome. They are artists. And Usha's looking through the pictures, and none of them. She draws pictures of human kings. We can imagine the great kings of that time. Shishupal, Jarasandha. She draws pictures of, uh, who else would there be? Dantavakra. Those are all demon kings. She drew pictures of Rishnis and Yadus, Ugrasena. She's elderly. Vasudeva. She draws a picture of Krishna. She draws a picture of Aniruddha. Of Pradyumna. When she sees the picture of Pradyumna, she becomes bashful. But she says to Chitralekha, it's not him, but he looks kind of similar. He's darkish blue. He has those yellow garments. And then she draws a picture of Pradyumna's son, Aniruddha. And Usha becomes fully bashful. And she says, that's the one. That's the man that I've been seeing in my dreams. And so Chitralekha, she's not only an artist, good at making picture lines, but she is also a mystic. She has mystic powers. And so she knew that this was Aniruddha who lives in Dvaraka. And so using her mystic powers, she flew in the sky to Dvaraka. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that Narada Muni found her trying to enter Dvaraka, which is not possible for ordinary people. It is well fortified. It has both physical fortifications, but also more mystic, subtle fortifications that even a mystic like Yogini, Chitralekha, could not penetrate. But understanding who she was, where she had come from, and the significance of this pastime that was unfolding, Narada Muni gave her the directions how to enter into Dvaraka. And so Chitralekha, she came to the palace of Aniruddha, found him sleeping, and so she lifted the sleeping prince without waking him and brought her back to her friend Ūṣā in Sunitapura, the capital of Bāṇāsura, where she presented him to her friend Ūṣā. So we can pause here and just reflect on, we can reflect on destiny and its how it is unpredictable. Usha's encounter in her dreams and Chitralekha's subsequent actions highlight the unpredictability of destiny. It seems that Usha and Aniruddha were meant to be together, and this is already written in each of their destinies. And so destiny is interesting. We all have our destiny. Of course, we have free will as well within that. We make choices within that destiny. And but yeah, there is this pathway, of course, that has been set for us as well. And these unexpected events or encounters, they impact our lives and shape our future paths. We can also reflect on the use of power. Chitralekha, she has these mystic powers, and with great power comes responsibility. And there's a necessity for wisdom in wielding these powers. The power we have needs to be used judiciously, needs to be used with consideration for their consequences as well. Usha's helping her friend, sorry, Chitralekha is helping her friend Usha, but she's also charting the course of destiny both for Usha and for Aniruddha as well. And there are implications for that. Let's go to our third point, verses 23 through to 33. We've titled it Aniruddha Rest. So Usha, she has now obtained the man of her dreams. She has the man of her desires. She serves him with much affection within her private quarters. These quarters were strictly off limits. There's no way that a man could enter within the quarters of the princess. But after some time, the female guards of the inner palace, they noticed symptoms on Usha's person indicating she was having romantic relations with a man, and that caused them much distress. They were also worried that they would be punished should Bāṇāsura find out what was going on, that they would be held responsible for that. And so rather than being caught or found out for being negligent in their duty, they themselves went to inform Bāṇāsura of what they um, had seen and what their concerns were. When Bāṇāsura heard this news that his daughter had lost her innocence, her maidenhood, he was greatly disturbed, and he rushed to his daughter's apartments with a company of soldiers. And when he arrived there, he was very distressed, disturbed by what he saw. He was surprised. He saw Aniruddha, a very handsome young prince, sitting there talking and laughing with his daughter Usha. And so he sent his soldiers to attack and arrest Aniruddha. Aniruddha, he picked up a club and he defended himself, successfully defeated many of those soldiers as they surrounded him and attacked him on all sides. But eventually, Bāṇāsura released a mystic weapon called Nagapasha. Nagapasha is a snake rope weapon, and Aniruddha, he was captured with this snake rope, the Nagapasha. And when Aniruddha was thus arrested, Usha was filled with lamentation. So we can reflect here, which is what we need to think about: unintended consequences of choices made. Usha's decision to invite Aniruddha without considering the consequences highlights how when we are overwhelmed by desire, we often fail to think before acting. And so Usha's actions, yeah, she's moved by love, by lust. She needed to have Aniruddha, the man of her dreams, maybe it's destiny, but we also are held responsible for the choices we make within that. And that's where there's an interesting tension between free will and destiny. When we make these choices driven by emotion, driven by our destiny, it can lead to unintended, unforeseen consequences. It can be lead to a sense of betrayal of trust. That's how Manisura is feeling, that his daughter has betrayed him. It can lead to a breaching of boundaries. That's the allegation made of the gods that Usha has behaved in a way that is unbefitting a princess, a maiden. Aniruddha as well now has been held accountable. He's arrested for being in the private quarters of the princess. It can lead to misunderstanding as well. Of course, we need to also remember here that in Usha's case, the object of her affection is Aniruddha. Aniruddha is the super soul in the heart of all living beings. And this is all the arrangement of Leela Shakti, the pastime potency. And the outcome will ultimately be all auspicious. Nonetheless, there is opportunity for us to reflect on these stories and consider implications as well. So we'll conclude here with a prayer. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, reflections, insights, please write them in the chat. We can further explore. Beloved Krishna, in the rhythm of Shiva's affection for Bāṇāsura, we find the pulsating beats of service and gratitude. Mana's drums resound with the melody of service, while Shiva's dance embodies gratitude, gratitude's elegant steps. Manasura's might, a testament to strength, unveils the cost of unchecked pride, reminding us that material grandeur obscures our view of the boundless expanse of your grace. Usha's dreams, a canvas of destiny's whims, thread tales of life's unpredictability. Chitra's mystic artistry serves as a reminder of the necessity for responsible wielding of power, a testament to the harmony between strength and wisdom. In Usha's impulsive embrace, shadows of unmade choices materialize. In fevered hearts, hastened actions, fractured trust, and veil wisdom in the shroud of misunderstanding. O Krishna, in life's intricately woven tapestry, lead us to the melodies of gratitude, the dance of humility, and the symphony of responsibility of thoughtful choices. When these ancient narratives reside, for within these ancient narratives reside the lessons that guide our sacred journey of devotion. Thank you for being here. Let me acknowledge some of you who arrived just as I started speaking. Raja Lakshmi is with us from Brisbane, Australia. It was so nice seeing you in Vrindavan. Sakirai Prabhu, Shri Kartik. That's you here now. So thank you for joining. Raja Lakshmi, Sakirai. Janamamata says, sound is a bit muffled. Might be the internet connection. My internet is really good. So my microphone should be good as well. Sorry about that. Muffled sound. Yeah, I'm not sure. My settings are looking good here on this side. Maybe I need to pull the mic a little closer. Nikunja says, Hare Krishna Prabhu and the assembled devotees. Danika is here too. Great. Hey, Harival Danika. Harival Nikunja. Thank you both for being here. And Danika, so remembering your birthday celebration in Vrindavan. And for others of you who've been following these classes, some time ago we were speaking about Krishna's fragrance and how it is the fragrance of a guru mixed with camphor and blue lotus, some other wonderful scents. And Danika and Nikunja made a comment that Indra Maharaj had said in one of his classes. I think Danika said that Indra Maharaj, he actually had those oils and was offering them to his deities. So I said that when I go to Vrindavan during Kartik, I'll ask Indra Maharaj to receive some of that. And the nice thing, and then Danika said, "Can we have some as well?" And so when we were there at Danika's birthday, I managed to, well, Indra Maharaj gave her a small bottle of that oil, oil, the fragrance of Krishna. So a nice happening or outcome of the Sangha in these classes. Rasastali says, Hare Krishna Prabhu and all assembled devotees, my humble arms to all. Thank you, Rasastali, for joining us from South Africa. Haro Haro says, Hare Krishna. Thank you for being with us from Christchurch. Jambavati joining us from Sydney, Australia says, Hari Hari. Hi. Thank you for joining us, Jambavati. And here, Janavamata has a question that you can only see part of. That's as much as will be displayed on the screen. Thank you as always for another inspiring and enlightening Korero, which would be Maori, for discussion. There's so many gems to unpack from these transcendental pastimes. A question for you. It seems that Lord Shiva engages even those with demoniac natures in his service. And sometimes it causes problems. In the same way, we should also have to engage ourselves and others in devotional service, even though the demonic mentality can still be present to some degree. How do we make sure our compassion doesn't create disasters? Hope that makes sense. It's a big question. Is there ever a point where we say that a person is just too far gone? Where to draw the line? If we just let everyone in, it can cause havoc. But we want to give Krishna consciousness to all. This is the mood of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, Srila Prabhupada also. Great question. And I have a nice answer for you. I also want to maintain the suspense of the story. So I'm going to withhold that part of the answer. But let me say this. So there is a difference between the devotees of Shiva and the devotees of Krishna, or the devotees of the demigods and Krishna's devotees. This is highlighted in the Bhagavatam. And the way Sukadeva Goswami explains it is that the demigods generally give the materialists what they desire. So they pray for material rewards, and the demigods fulfill it. He says, but in Krishna's case, Krishna doesn't just do that, because he doesn't just he's not just interested in the service, but he also loves that soul. And so he works to purify that soul, not just fulfilling their desires, but purifying their material inclination, such that their desires will also be auspicious and virtuous and pure. So that's a key difference that Sukadeva Goswami points out to when Parikshit raises this question about the difference between worshipping demigods and worshipping Vishnu or worshipping Krishna. And so that would in part answer your question as well, in the sense that the process of bhakti will purify those that we might consider too far gone. We should have that faith. Prabhupada have that faith, and that's why I would argue he was so successful as a preacher of Krishna consciousness. He had full faith and conviction of the power of bhakti to purify a soul. He had full faith and conviction in the power of the holy name to purify any soul, and not just purify, but elevate them to the highest standard, or to the highest status of being a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is more elevated than even a Brahmana Prahlada Maharaj says, even a Brahmana with 12 rabbinical qualities is not as elevated as a Vaishnava, even if that Vaishnava is born in a family of demons, even if that Vaishnava is born in some other inauspicious condition or situation. So we must have faith in that power of devotional service and that power of the holy name. When we have that faith, and we're as Prabhupada, he was able to convey that faith to others, and so many thousands and thousands of people, hippies and became happies, as he said. Quite degraded people became most elevated souls, became most elevated um, Vaishnavas of the highest caliber. So we should maintain that faith and conviction. Now, in terms of someone who might, because that, even though someone might be elevated to a Vaishnava, there's always the chance that the previous condition might rear its, that previous tendencies might come up again. And the soul has free will. And so there's the concern. Those previous tendencies, those deeply rooted samskaras, which are being purified by the holy name, which are being purified by the power of devotional service, but they may again come up and cause trouble, not just for the soul, but for others as well. And you're concerned, we want to protect others. And so, what are we to do in such a situation? And that's where there needs to be discernment and healthy boundaries, maintaining faith in the power of devotional service of the holy name to purify a soul, but just also recognizing that conditioned nature is great. We have been in this material world since time immemorial, and so we carry very deeply rooted uh, samskaras. We carry very deeply rooted impressions, and so it may take some time. Some patience is required, and that being the case, then there can be some boundaries around which services people perform or how much responsibility they are given in certain roles. We remain respectful towards them, but we remain convinced of the power of devotional service. We continue to honor them as Vaishnavas, but there may be some need for just understanding strengths and limitations in terms of the conditioned nature, so long as it is there. And in that we have also example. So one example is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had a disciple, a follower named Krishnadas, who served him in South India. And then unfortunately, he got waylaid by the Bhattahari girls, basically. And he went around to their camp and he left Lord Chaitanya's service. He wanted to stay with the Bhattaharis, who were kind of like tantric nomads. And Lord Chaitanya had to go in and rescue him as the Bhattaharis attacked him with weapons. Lord Chaitanya went and lifted up Krishnadas, carried him while holding him by the sika out of the Bhattahari camp. Lord Chaitanya continued to engage him in service, but once they returned to Puri, Lord Chaitanya told the senior devotees what had happened, and then he said, Krishnadas is dismissed from my personal service. What's interesting is how the devotees dealt with this Krishnadas. Lord Chaitanya had dismissed him from his personal service. It's such a responsible position and a position of great authority as well, being Lord Chaitanya's personal assistant. So he's dismissed from that role. But the devotees found another service for him, which is so merciful. So Nityananda Prabhu and Srivas, Damodar, they gave Krishnadas the service of traveling to Bengal to tell the devotees about Lord Chaitanya's travels in South India, to recount the stories, and also to invite them to come to Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra, because Lord Chaitanya hadn't been in Puri for the Rath Yatra for some years because he was traveling in South India. And so his service was to go back to Puri and visit all the great devotees in the different towns and villages, and to let them know Lord Chaitanya is back from South India, and you are all invited to Jagannath Rath Yatra. So Lord Chaitanya, he dismissed Krishnadas. Nityananda Prabhu, the other devotees, they continued to engage him. And that's interesting that one Supreme Lord is dismissing, the other Supreme Lord is accepting. And how do we understand that? That God is both dismissing or rejecting and accepting at the same time. And it is in terms of different roles. Lord Chaitanya is the head of his Sangha, his Vaishnava community. And as the head, and as a sannyasi, you can't have Krishnadas with him in that so close. In what is the position of leadership as well as Lord Chaitanya's personal assistant? And so in that role, he's rejected. But as a devotee to render service, he's accepted. Nityananda Prabhu accepts him and engages him in service. And so there's a similar story with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, where some devotee had misbehaved in the what is now Chennai, Madras Gaudiya Math, and the devotees had sent him away. And Bhaktisiddhanta, and then he wanted to come back, and the devotees asked Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati what to do with him because he had misbehaved and then banished. Now he was repentant. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, as the head of the month, I can't agree. Lord Chaitanya is very strict. He said, but you devotees are very merciful. So it is up to you to decide. So isn't that interesting? Nityananda Prabhu is very merciful. He tells the devotees of Lord Chaitanya are very merciful. So you can decide. So there's what it should show us is that subtlety and nuance in this, how to be strict and principled and uphold a standard within the community and the Sangha on one side, but also to be understanding of the individual and their story and their conditioning and their needs on the other side, and how to harmonize these two because they might not go together, so to speak. When we have a very high standard in our community, in our Sangha, then it might require that certain people are asked to leave or they are um, they're removed from official positions of authority and responsibility. But in terms of the individual, there needs to be understanding and compassion and love and affection as well. And so the challenge for us is to bring both of these things together at once. And there it is. That takes maturity. Great question. Hopefully you found that response helpful. Shama Manjari says, thanks, Prabhuji. Beautiful prayer and class. Shama Manjari. Aroha Rose says, yes. So in Maori says, I a yes te ro ma, simply language form of Sanskrit, easy to learn. The vowels are God. Oh, the vowels are God. A E I O U. Koreru equals discussion. Aroha means love. Aroha te atu, God is love. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for that little lesson there in Maori language. Much appreciated. You know, Aroha, when I was in school, small, growing up in New Zealand, Maori language was not as prominent. And so I missed out on that. But in the years that I returned to New Zealand, and at some point I noticed that my passport was in two languages and that books in the stores were in two languages or that there were books available in both languages. government documents were in both languages. So there's been a much more appreciation of that beautiful language that I didn't really have as in my formative years, unfortunately. Thank you for that. Nikunja says, thank you, Prabhu, so much for being instrumental in Danika receiving that beautiful fragrance from Gurudev and Nujum Swami. Our immense gratitude to you. It was also really nice to have your presence at Danika's birthday lunch. I appreciated it. Great. And, yeah, it was very, very special. Okay, Miracle Nelson says, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And Janava Mata says, thank you for such a complete and thoughtful answer. Great points. I was also thinking that if we all have qualified mentors, then even if we or someone gets into trouble, there's always protection. If not, it can be dangerous. Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Good insight. Yeah, helpful. Nikunja says, from your previous class, how can we understand the relationship of Mayavati with Pradyumna, first as a mother and then changing to more conjugal? That's a good question. And she was never his mother, but she was his caregiver. And but then it did change. And so what I can say is this, that their default relationship is conjugal because Mayavati is Rati, who is the eternal consort of uh, Kamadev, Cupid. And so the default mode of their relationship is a conjugal relationship. Within the conjugal, then we can have servitude and friendship and also parenthood as well. We can't have the conjugal within servitude and friendship and parenthood, but within conjugal, we can have those other relations. Therefore, the conjugal relation is said to be most complete, and therefore Radha and Krishna's pastimes with the gopis are most complete and most satisfying to Krishna. And so if we take that into account, then Mayavati's relationship with with Pradyumna is conjugal, but for a period, she is taking the role of caregiver just because of the extraordinary circumstance of um, Kamadev's being burnt to ashes by Shiva's glance and then being reborn. He's reborn along with Pradyumna, because Pradyumna is the source of Cupid's power. So if we have that bigger picture view, then it's not strange. But if we just have the smaller micro view, then it would be odd. You are quite right. So yeah, in terms of rasa, within conjugal, there are all five. Within uh, parenthood, then there are all four minus, but the strongest is parenthood, the parental love, but the others are also there minus the conjugal. And then in friendship, there's also servitude, and yeah, in friendship there will also be sometimes we take the role of a protector. Uh, in servitude, then um, there's less. So servitude may be dominant, but sometimes some friendship might be there, but it'll be much constrained. So yeah, for the most part, then uh, we say the conjugal relationship, it is like earth in relation to the other elements. The earth includes fragrance, but also taste, and also sight, and also tactile sensation. So the qualities of all the elements is there within the earth element. And as you go up, the elements that are more subtle, then the qualities are less and less. Thank you for the question. Aroha Rose says Bhagavad Gita currently being translated into Te Reo Maori. Gauranga, Hare Krishna. That's great news. It's amazing how God's mercy extends into all the languages of the world. His spiritual master told him, preach Chaitanya's message in the English language. And Prabhupada did that and so much more. And that mission continues to be taken forward by disciples and followers. Monica Sharma is with us, says Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here, Monica Sharma. Janama Mata, interesting that in the early 1900s, a well-known anthropologist compared Maori culture and language with South Indian culture, and he found 19 or 23 cultural practices say in over 50% of the language. We have a place here called Rama Rama, and also Hari Hari. Just see, we are all connected. Yeah. The world is, sometimes we refer to it as a global village, and the idea of the Bhagavatam is that the ruler, the Kuru family, they ruled the earth. They were responsible for protecting Dharma across the entire earth. And so that is the understanding that Vedic culture was a worldwide civilizational culture, not limited to the boundaries of what is today India. Chanamamata also says, one lovely Maori priest who has just joined us after reading Bhagavad Gita as it is also writing a book about the similarities between Vedic culture, Krishna consciousness, and Maori culture. Gaura Bhaktavinda, he Chai. It's nice seeing these parallels. Of course, in Bali, there's so many elements of Vedic culture there. And when I was young, the Balinese devotees used to come through Australia, and they would dance Ramayan, they would dance Krishna's chastising Kamsa and other pastimes. And then, of course, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, they all have Vedic temples and stories. Same in China, and, Hawaii, and then Europe. And so, yeah, it's nice seeing these parallels and connections. Thank you all very much. I am grateful for your presence and for this opportunity to share with you. This was the first part of this discussion. So in our next class, we will continue this story of Bāṇāsura and Ūṣā and Aniruddha. So we leave on a cliffhanger with Aniruddha being arrested by Bāṇāsura's Nagapacha. The story will continue. In the meantime, I wish you health and happiness. May you deepen your taste for chanting Krishna's holy name with attention. May you deepen your taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. May you deepen your appreciation of Krishna's merciful appearance in the form of a Sri Vigraha of his beauty. May you deepen in your appreciation of Krishna's pastime places, places where he's worshipped in his deity form by his devotees. May you deepen in your appreciation of Krishna's devotees, your attachment for serving them. These practices of bhakti, may your heart soften such that you are moved with compassion to share the treasures of bhakti far and wide with others. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.